I'm Sam LaPrade. Welcome to Ottawa Business Matters. Have we got a show for you today? You're going to want to stay with us the whole hour. We're going to kick off with Sueling Ching. She's the president and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hi, Sam.
You are everywhere. There's so much happening. I want to kick off today talking about the growth survey that happened. A really big part of what's happening here in the Ottawa community. And you have some interesting statistics to talk to us about.
So we have been running the Ottawa Business Growth Survey for over a decade now. And that's my way of saying I'm not sure how many years, but over a decade for sure. It is done in partnership with Welch and, of course, the Ottawa Business Journal, and then it's driven by Abacus Data. So David Coletto, who we've had on the show before, does a survey of our business community, and really we do it in order to measure business confidence in our local community. And then we often have a theme, and this year the theme was around how our municipal government is faring in the minds of our business leaders. And so our business confidence index was down a little bit from in the past, but we did see that there seems to be general support for our current city council, and in particular our mayor. And the thing that I was really encouraged to see was that business leaders really do see themselves as having a role and a responsibility in deciding how the community moves forward, which is good news, of course, for the Board of Trade, because we rely on these business leaders to help us decide what the agendas are that we're going to advocate for. So, so the survey's online now, so anyone can go in and see the details of it. We measure things like, forecasted revenue, forecasted hires, and things like that. So all different kinds of things that feed into the index. So people can go and look at that online. And then the second part of the event is always to have some kind of a panel of business leaders. And so this one was called the 4 Big Ideas to Advance Ottawa.
Right.
It was great fun.
And was there any surprises for you?
In terms of those 4 big ideas?
Yeah.
No, there weren't surprises. I'm not sure there were surprises for me because we're so involved in it all the time anyway. But I was very impressed with the thought that went into each of the presentations. So Erin Benjamin, who's the president and CEO of the Canadian Live Music Association, she talked about the role of music and the arts in our economy, in community building, and made a great presentation around that. We had Sandrine, who's the commissioner of the Ottawa Film Office, talk about the soundstage. So the soundstage was, I think, well on its way pre-pandemic, and she talked about some of the growth in the filming that's happening here in Ottawa. They just had the release of Geek Girl, which is coming out on Netflix, which was partly filmed in Ottawa. And so she really talked about the economic impact of that. We had Graham Bird talking about how important it is to have Sens Arena in the downtown core. And then we also had Andrew Reeves join us from Linebox Studio. And he really talked about how design and architecture can play a big part in city building. And we really do appreciate that. And the report that we just released, I have to stop calling it a report, the Downtown Ottawa Action Plan that we just released also contemplated the role of design as we move forward. Right. Because of course we built the city for the federal government, right? And then we have business leaders traveling all over the world saying this is the kind of downtown we should have, and it has a lot to do with placemaking, design thought, and integrating that into the plans.
It's so interesting because, as we know, obviously Ottawa is a thriving city. We're trying to attract more businesses here as well. This growth survey, who do you think really pays attention? I mean, other than the businesses here, globally, do you think it gets attention of people wanting to make Ottawa their business home?
Yeah. So, I mean, Sam, I think all of these pieces of collateral, if you are content, can work together, including the show that you're hosting, including Capital Magazine, including the social media platforms of all the economic partners. That's why we really try and calibrate the messaging from all the economic partners, so that there's a simple message both for the people in our city, right, who we want to keep here and grow their businesses and continue to live in Ottawa. But all of these things come together and paint a picture for prospects who might be considering opening a business in Ottawa or investing in Ottawa. And what we're really trying to demonstrate is that we have a very ambitious, bold, collaborative community here working together toward a common vision. And so, you have projects like the hospital, or you have projects like Le Breton or Lansdowne and the direct flights at the airport. All of those things play a part in our overall economic ecosystem and help tell the story of why Ottawa.
Beautifully said. We speak a lot as well about community wealth building and how important that is. Talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of progress that's been made.
Sure. We've always done the buy local programs, and we've had the hire local folks on to talk about how important it is to try and work with the universities so we can give the students work experience so that they'll stay in Ottawa. There's lots of different ways for us to build up the community by just making different choices around procurement, using a local business, being a tourist in your own hometown. So it really resonated, particularly during the pandemic. People understood why they had to come together and support each other, but it's something that has to continue, and particularly when we look at the opportunities to use that lens when it comes to inclusivity and making sure that everyone is welcome in our community and can be successful in our community. So we do a little bit of work with the United Way around this, and we are and over and above our buy local programs, which we always encourage, we're going to continue to look for ways to do that as a way to drive our economy in the future.
And we know today we have a very big show, as we do every single week. Mark Goudie's joining us from OSEG. Roger Greenberg's joining us, not only with his Minto hat, but with his Ottawa Hospital Foundation hat on as well. And then, of course, David Ross from Ross Video. Three incredible business leaders.
Yes, for sure. Yes, we like Roger very much, and we actually had him speak at our last AGM last year because we really feel like he's a great example of a successful business person who has become so involved and has become a pillar in our community, and with so many projects. And I think he'll talk to you about his latest passion with the hospital. And Mark Goudie and David Ross were both a part of our OBOT CEO Council, which actually came together weekly when the pandemic started to talk about how Ottawa's CEOs could work to support the community as a whole. So big fans of them, particularly proud of the work that David has done with Ross Video and the example he has set as both an ambitious but also a compassionate leader. And of course, we're thrilled with the work that Mark's doing at Lansdowne Park, which is such an important economic engine in our city core.
Oh, it's huge, absolutely huge. We know coming up in just a couple of weeks, really important AGM is coming up, of course, for the Ottawa Board of Trade, and that 40 under 40, the big event. It is a night where every single person that is getting recognized that night, 40 under 40, will take that night and they'll carry it for the rest of their careers.
They will. The 40 under 40 in Ottawa are a passionate group of people, and they're very proud of being named a 40 under 40, which we're thrilled for. And we do a lot of work to make sure that we celebrate them and honor them in the right way. And our motto is, what gets recognized gets repeated. So we hope to both inspire other young leaders to follow the example that we've recognized them for business acumen and community involvement and leadership. But what we know too is many of them, of course, have gone on to become the leaders that have built this city and that are continuing to build this city today. So we have a wonderful show planned and a wonderful evening planned. I think we're getting close to sold out. So hoping folks can join us on the 21st at Casino Lac Lémy. It's always a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. What a great location too.
It
That's
is
wonderful. I want to talk a little bit about membership, because I think people have this perception that only big companies are part of the Ottawa Board of Trade. And it could be the farthest from the truth. Obviously, there are big companies that are involved and they're happy to be there, they're leaders, but there's a place for every business in this community. Can you talk about that specifically? Because I really do, as I host this show and I see people in the community, people think it's just big business.
Well, some people think it's just big business, and then some people think it's just small business.
Right.
And the truth is that that's the unique value proposition of a Chamber of Commerce or a Board of Trade in any city, is that we represent the interests of the community business, the business community as a whole, all sizes and all sectors of the business community. And there is a place for everyone. So we do have a large contingent of small businesses. Probably 70-75% of our members are considered small businesses. But the large businesses really do allow us to drive our advocacy agenda forward as well. Both of them do, because we consult through our committees. But so we really do encourage every business in Ottawa to be a member of the Board of Trade, so that we can continue to strengthen the voice of business. And I will say, Sam, in the 167 years that the Board of Trade has existed, I will say that it's now that is most critical, because as we're looking at really changing political and economic times, we want to make sure that the ingenuity, the resilience, the vision of the private sector has a strong influence in how we move forward. And so the Board of Trade's a mechanism to do that.
And I will say, it's really easy to do. And how I know that is because people see me on TV, people hear me on radio, but I'm also a small business as well.
That's right.
And so I joined. And so I know how easy it is to do. It's very quick to do. And also I feel like as a small business, I feel like I'm part of something bigger.
Yeah.
Which is really great. And we have to break, but we've got great guests coming up. Thanks for talking a little bit about membership and about the growth survey. Always a pleasure. Thank you,
Sam.
Thank you so much. Sueling Ching, of course, she is the president and CEO of the Ottawa Board of Trade, and she does a fantastic job. When we come back, my friend Mark Goudie is going to be here. Stay with us. Well, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Mark Goudie is here. He is the president and CEO of Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group, also known as OSEG. How are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited that you're here.
Awesome.
So I really want to make sure that we explain exactly what OSEG is, because I think people think they know a slice of the pie, but they may not know the whole pie.
Right.
So tell me exactly what your job encompasses.
Yeah, so partnership with the City of Ottawa in Lansdowne. City owns all of the assets, so all of the buildings at Lansdowne, and we manage those buildings on behalf of the city. Our partnership includes the Red Blacks, as you know, 67s, TD Place, and all of the retail that's around shops and restaurants that's around Lansdowne, as well as a foundation that we run, OSEG Foundation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you know you've got like the coolest job in the city.
Some days.
Yeah.
Most days, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
If they're winning.
I'm sports fan and played sports growing up. Never thought I would have a career in sports, so it's pretty awesome. Wow. I wake up before my alarm clock goes off every morning, so yeah, it's good to do what I do.
That's fantastic. And you know, when we think about obviously all of the things the city has to offer, as you know, I'm a big fan of the city. When we think about Red Blacks and of course the opportunity for the senators, and we think about all of the arts and culture, and we include the 67s in there, and everything that Ottawa has to offer from a culture, sports perspective, that intersection of how we get to kind of spend our fun time and the business really links when it comes to Lansdowne.
Yeah, I think so, right? And if you roll the tape back about 15 years, like Lansdowne was not something to be proud of, right? It was, probably attracting 250,000 people a year, some 67s games, some farmer market stuff going on in a big parking lot. So, where we are now is we have 4 million visitors plus a year, right? Going into COVID, we were doing about 125 ticketed events a year. Now we're doing 183 last year. So that's a lot of stuff kind of going on in Ottawa that wasn't happening before, right? You know, in the hub of our city. So, you know, I think we're pretty proud of the role that we've been able to play in, you know, arts and leisure and sport in Ottawa. Yeah, so I think we've done a real good job of. I think we're one of the most diverse stadiums, arenas, venues, districts in North America, given all the kind of stuff we do, from Christmas markets to farmers markets, 67s, Red Blacks, women's hockey that kind of we were blessed with this year. So
Yes.
yeah, pretty fun, pretty action-packed year. Yeah. And I think we've kind of reclaimed Lansdowne's place as Ottawa's gathering place, which is something we're pretty proud of.
Well, and I'll tell you, I live in Richmond. I mean, I tell everybody, I still consider Lansdowne. I'll meet my gal pals down there for dinner. Went to a number of Red Blacks games last year, was cheering them on, of course. Headed to a 67s game this year as well. It really has become that hub for no matter where you live in the city. And I can't stress enough that the changes coming to Lansdowne are going to be exciting. It's going to be a big change for people, but I think it's still very exciting for the city.
It's what we need, right? To be able to continue to attract more visitors to Lansdowne, to attract more events, right? We have Volleyball Nations League this week, right? Wow. People from all around the world, visitors to our city from all around the world over 5 days of competition, broadcast. You know, Ottawa's on the volleyball world map, broadcast around the world. That's important stuff from an economic development perspective, and from a, you know, we get to bring that to our city. You know, VNL's, I think their plan was to have different cities in Ottawa they would go to during the year. They've been to Ottawa every year because it was so awesome. They love the venue, the players like coming here and be able to be right downtown with other things around the event center. So for us to be able to continue to do that with, you know, Skate Canada's and with curling championships and all of that stuff, we need venues that people will come to. Sport, tourism, and the competitiveness for events on the world stage is vast right now. So we got to be able to attract people. They love what we do. They love our organization. We do a great job of hosting parties and really good events, but we need the facilities to be able to live the next 50 years of our life as well.
Oh, 100%. And when I hear about all of these events coming to Ottawa, and not only the ones obviously that are here regularly, but I just hear cha-ching, cha-ching. I hear money. I hear economic improvements. I hear economic investment into our city. And when people come in, they're going to spend their dollars at restaurants, at hotels. That's all good stuff.
It's great. That's what's needed, right? Like, I think, you know, Ottawa's got its challenges coming out of COVID, and I know we'll figure it all out, but you know, you need economic development to be able to help build the safety net and to build the stuff we need in a world-class city. So, you know, we play a very small role in that, but I think it's an important one.
I think it's a big role.
Thank you.
Myself. So update us. We know that there's been lots of talk about residential buildings being on Lansdowne. Where do we sit? What part of the process are we at?
Yeah, so Lansdowne 2.0 is what we call it. It's kind of been approved by the city last year. We're in the kind of planning phase now, so about a year of all the architectural work and what everything's going to look like and how it's all going to fit together. Again, we got 4 million people coming to the site that need to keep coming to this site. So it'll kind of happen in 3 phases so we can keep everything that we're doing kind of going. First thing, so we're about a year and a half away from starting the construction. The first thing will be an event center. It'll be, if you're familiar with it, in the east end zone, kind of linking the north side to the south side of the football stand, so a bit of a horseshoe. That'll be about a 2-year project. Really important to do that first because then we can move all of the stuff that we're doing in the TD Place arena into that, right? And keep everything going. So first thing is our event center. Second thing would be our new north side stands and retail podium that'll sit behind it, about another 2-year process. And then phase 3 will be the residential, to be determined kind of what exactly that looks like, but probably somewhere around 800 units on site in 2 different buildings, probably another 3 years after that. So that'll be the circus, right, to keep everything going at the same time while we refresh the facilities over the next 7 years.
You have a big job there.
It doesn't feel like a job,
Doesn't?
right? It feels like I'm born and raised in Ottawa.
Wow, I love
My
that.
uncle owned the 67, so I've been coming to 67's games and hanging out at the old Civic Center since I was a kid. So, you know, it feels like home.
I love that, and I think you know, when you're that invested and passionate, then work becomes just life, and you love it so much.
It does.
It's great.
And I have an awesome team. We have the best people working for our organization that I could ever imagine. They, I think our guest service, we hired guest services people that like making people happy and hospitality and all of that stuff. So, I think it's a calling. So it's nice to go to work in the morning where everybody's bright-eyed and bushy-tails and looking to make a memory for somebody.
And making memories at the Red Blacks games, of course, and the 67s games.
Yeah.
This city becomes alive on those nights. Yeah. And I don't know anybody that, like, when I don't go to a game, I feel like I'm the only person in the city because my Facebook feed is full of pictures of people at the Red Blacks game. Yeah.
Well, we're going to throw in a couple more wins, I think, over the next couple of years. That should help things. But, I think it's a testament to what do we do that even if we haven't performed up to our standards, up to what people have expected out of us, it's still a good party. People like going to it on a beautiful night. The venue is gorgeous. I just saw some posts from people that came down for the Montreal game from Montreal going, oh my God, this is the best stadium in the CFL. It's what a cool venue for it. So so I think we've got the hospitality and the guest services and the fun there. Throw in some wins this year and next year and a whole bunch of years after that, and I think we're back to where we need to be, which is the coolest place in town 10 nights a year.
So I was flying in the other day, and I, as I looking through the window as we're kind of landing, and I see Lansdowne from the sky. Have you seen that?
I have.
It is so impressive. And all I thought about is, I'm interviewing Mark Goudie.
Yeah.
I was all excited because it is so impressive to see it from that vantage point. And you see the canal. And I just think, I live in this city. It's so beautiful. I don't think people maybe appreciate it because there's always things to work on, Mark. There's no two ways about it. But when I saw it from that vantage point, I was so incredibly proud of this city. Yeah.
And that's when we get people coming here, whether it's for outdoor NHL game or the Grey Cup or VNL, right? That gives me juice at the end of the day when I hear how lucky, excuse me, we are to have this venue here and how wonderful people's experience was down here. Like we quibble over, we're probably our worst critic in terms of I can watch 95 things that are awesome and I just concentrate on the things that we need to make better for people. But to be validated by people that come and visit our venue, 4 million people that visit our venue, this is fun too, listening to you talk about it. So that's awesome.
That's great. And Bank Street, it's such an important part of our city, and that relationship you have with Bank Street, that must be an important one as well.
Yeah, and great relationship from day one with the BIA. I think, back in 2012-13 when it was coming on stream, they were concerned with what would happen. I think, we've been fantastic, and the BIA will share this, we've been fantastic for business in Bank Street, right, in terms of down there. I think a lot of the people that were wondering what Lansdowne was going to be like in terms of residents, they're there all the time now. It's given them something to do in their backyard as well. So, we're a whole bunch of things. We strive to be a good tourist destination. We strive to be a important place for residents of Ottawa and the Ottawa surrounding areas. And we strive to be a good neighbor as well, right? We play all of those roles, which is a lot of responsibility, but an important one.
You do it beautifully.
Thank you.
We only have about a minute left, but I want to talk about the foundation for a second.
Yeah.
It's so classic of OSEG to also have a foundation to give back. Share briefly what your foundation's doing.
Yeah, and that's something that came from Roger Greenberg and from John Ruddy. It was important for them to be able to have an impactful role in the city. Youth at Risk is kind of our core. It was, and we could spend a whole show on this, but during COVID, to be able to take a step back and see what we're doing as an organization and have time to kind of work on some things that we just haven't had time to do. The foundation one's one of those, and to be able to bring our athletes and our foundation and what we do in the community relations under kind of a social impact umbrella and be able to do probably more impactful things out in the community, particularly around youth at risk. And our metrics around those are like our people graduating from high school and going to university and thriving. At the end of the day, we have a mentorship program with our Red Blacks players that, we've had mentors, Red Blacks, that have carried on with the mentorship even if they've been traded away or retired from football because they've the connection with, some of these youth that, they see themselves, 15 years before that and lacking in a mature kind of voice to help them, guide them through some pretty difficult times. So really it's one of the coolest things we do, and to be able to bring you along one of these days and see how we impact kids' lives is pretty awesome.
I'd love it. Mark, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
This was
Thank you
too
for having
long.
me.
I waited too long to have you on.
I can come back.
Yeah, that's awesome. You were speaking about Roger Greenberg. He's coming up
I heard
next.
that.
Yeah.
He's giving me a to-do list of things I need to do when I go back to the office.
I look forward to it. Of course, Mark Goudie joining us. He's the president and CEO of OSEG. And as promised, Roger Greenberg, stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. I promised you that we would be chatting with Roger Greenberg, and that has come true. Roger joins me now. Hi, Roger. How are you?
Good morning, Sam. How are you?
I could take our whole 12 minutes and just talk about all the titles you have in this city, because you have a lot, and I am so grateful that you joined us, by the way. It means a lot to us that you'll spend time with us here
Listen,
on Ottawa Business
chance to talk
Matters.
about things that are passionate to me publicly is an opportunity that can't be passed.
So talk to me a little bit about, what's your title with Minto, for instance?
I am executive chairman of the private company, Minto, and I'm also chairman of the board of the REIT that we have, the Minto Apartment REIT.
Right. So very important role there.
Yes.
And then you and I connected recently because you are also the chair of a very important campaign in our city. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's the chair. I know it's got a fancy name, which I never quite remember the chair, and I'll probably get kicked after this discussion because I can't remember the tagline to it. I call it the New Civic Build.
Right.
So it's the new civic campus that's being built at Preston and Carling Avenue. The garage is under construction, and it will replace a venerable institution in this city called used to be called the Civic Hospital. Now it's the civic campus for the Ottawa Hospital. As I said, we're about to celebrate later this month the official 100th year anniversary of the facility, and as amazing as it's been through its history, it is so totally out of date now. As a frame of reference, and to give you a bit of an understanding why it's so important to me, my parents were born to Civic. My 5 siblings and I were born to Civic. 2 of my 3 children were born to Civic. The first was born in Toronto, where my wife and I were at the time. Sadly, a lot of family members have passed away at the Civic, and then everything in between. So, of all the hospitals in Ottawa, the Civic has been my hospital. But when we had a crisis with our youngest son a number of years ago, I hadn't been in the facility for a period of time, and I just walked around and saw what was there, and I went, oh my God, how can we deliver 21st century care in this facility? And the analogy that I use is trying to have the latest software, that's our doctors, our nurses, administrators, work on an ancient piece of computer technology and expect that we're going to get great results. It doesn't happen. It's a challenging work environment. It's 21 buildings that were added to the original building. The parking is difficult. Like there's just so much that is wrong with the infrastructure of it to allow us to deliver the kind of care. So I had been working with Dr. Kitts as part of his advisory group, a small group to talk about with the new facility. And when he asked me in somewhere around 2017, if I would get involved in the campaign, I jumped at it
Right.
immediately because I know it's probably a phrase that's used too often, but this will literally be transformative
For sure.
for healthcare in our region. We will
100%.
have the most technologically advanced teaching hospital and research institute in Canada, bar none, when this facility opens.
And the campaign to create tomorrow, I mean, this is really what we're looking at, is this brand new, incredible facility. As we know as well, the research piece that you spoke about, very lofty goal of $500 million. When that number was presented to you, how did you react?
Well, just to step back for a second, in Ontario, if you want a new hospital, for the last 80 years, no matter whether it's been a Conservative, Liberal, or even an NDP government, they've always insisted upon something they call local share. And if you don't agree to raise the local share, then you won't get approved. And so we're at the top of the list, and we would have dropped down to the bottom of the list. So we had to agree. Our local share number is actually $700 million. Our campaign goal is 500 of that 700. Long story for another day, how the hospital will come up with the $200 million. But that's what we had to agree to. And if we didn't agree to it, we wouldn't have gotten the far more significant dollars, $2.1 billion that currently as it stands, from the provincial government. So we had a study done. Study concluded that the most we could possibly raise, by far, largest campaign in the city's history, was $400 million. So that's actually, when I came on board, that's what we launched. And I knew in the back of my mind, as all of us did on the campaign, that we really wanted to reach $500 million. But we just started canvassing as the pandemic hit. And oddly enough, the pandemic really accentuated how out of date the hospital was. And in particular, the plan had always been for the new hospital to have single room beds. And the pandemic demonstrated that if you want to recover in a hospital environment, you cannot be in with 3 other people in a room or 2 other people. And that's what the vast majority of the existing beds are. So every one of the 631 beds in the new facility are all single. I would say I've been surprised, but I haven't been. My own family, which we led off with the first gift of the campaign, was the easiest canvas I've ever had in my life because everybody had fond memories of it. They know our role as a business, as a family business in the region, and why we needed to take a leadership position. And it quickly became apparent with some absolutely amazing people. The Smith family, Homestead Land Holdings, Mike McGann, CLV, Interrent, and I mean I could go on and on with lots of business families that all stepped up to understand not only is this good for the residents of Ottawa and therefore their businesses, but it is good directly for their businesses because it will be, when it's finished, it's a campus. When it's finished, it'll be the largest economic generator that we have in the region. And when you add in the recent BMC announcement by the federal government, which will be an innovation building, we have a life sciences park component, the redevelopment, I'm doing it like it's a map here. I love it. I know the site plan. And then you get to the redevelopment of the existing civic site, which will be torn down and will be redeveloped as a seniors long-term care element, because in the hospital, every hospital has this, 35% or so of the occupants of the beds can't go home. They need some care, but they don't need hospital care. They need something in between.
Right.
And the provincial government understands that, recognizes that, and wants to help build it. So we're getting the first model of that at the Riverside with Schlegel building a village there of retirement and long-term care. So to be able to move people out of the hospital environment then frees up capacity in the emergency room and works all the way through. So yes, it's a long-winded answer because I tend to give long-winded answers.
I like
it. The campaign goal was ambitious, by far the largest. Before we went public with it, we had already raised enough from a small group of forward-thinking business families in the city that we raised the goal publicly immediately to $500 million, and that's what it's been. And I'm proud as punch to say that we're at $318 million today.
Wow.
So I'm wow also. I'm also, I constantly joke with my CEO successor at Minto, Michael Waters, whether I'm a glass half full or glass half empty guy, because we both say that the other is a glass half empty guy. 318 is great, but it means we still have 182 to go.
Right.
And even at $182 million, that would be the largest campaign.
And here's what I love, Roger, is you mentioned all of these businesses that gave. And this is the intersection of business and philanthropy, making this city even better to live in by having world-class healthcare right in this city, a city of 1 million and plus growing people, that this is an opportunity for businesses to step up. I really want to make sure people know that they also can be seen in this campaign.
100%.
If they're willing to give $25, $25,000, $2,500, there also a space for them.
100%. I mean, somewhere in my notes that I was given here, but I can't remember the number. I mean, the number of gifts that we've gotten in the campaign, and it does. It ranges from $25 to $25 million and everything in between. But the number of smaller gifts, I talk about gifts of equal sacrifice. And by that I mean that sometimes for someone who's giving, say, a $5,000 gift, I recognize that that's a dinner out with their family that they might not be able to have, a nice set of clothes, perhaps a vacation. Like, it really represents a sacrifice to them. And for that kind of gift, that's an equal sacrifice to families who have capacity and have stepped forward with 8-figure gifts.
But here's how I did it, and I'm so proud to be part of this campaign. You have no idea. I want to shout it from the rooftops.
Yep.
Was my gift a big gift? No. But what I did is it over monthly. So i
100%.
I've done it over a monthly time, so I can say to my daughter, when I drive by that campus with her for the very first time, say, you know what? We contributed to that.
We do call it a recognition campaign for exactly that reason, because it's not, every gift will be recognized in its own fashion. We haven't quite figured it out how yet, because the plans are still evolving, but it will be done because people need to know, when we're no longer walking on this earth, it wasn't just like tax dollars, you know, from the Ontario government that did this. It was the local residents, because of the gifts that I've talked about, the 318 million, I can only think of one so far. It happened to be a very nice gift, but someone associated with Shopify that gave a wonderful gift. And he and his family live in Toronto, but he had that connection because his mom,
Right.
and he was born in Ottawa. But the rest are all gifts that are coming from the local region. Even we've had some bank support so far. We hope to have all the big 5 banks on before too long. It's the local team that's been pushing to get their bosses in Toronto to understand how important this is. If you think about, if you're relocating to Ottawa and you're a family and you're going to a business, okay, your job, here's your job, you want to know that. You're going to want to know about 2 things, schools and hospitals.
Absolutely, 100%.
And that's, and so to the people that get it, like, and so many of these canvases, it takes me 6 minutes, and I know that these people get it. So it's just a question of what's their capacity, and in some cases, because like business people tend to be philanthropic to lots of causes, can they focus as much as I'm hoping them to here? Maybe yes, maybe no, because there are other wonderful, wonderful causes. But what I'm seeing is actually a lot of the other causes are also benefiting from this campaign as well.
Lifting the whole city up. Roger, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I really do appreciate it very much. We're going to be getting caught up again as this campaign
Absolutely.
continues. Absolutely.
I'd like to, Sam.
Campaign to Create Tomorrow. Thank you so much, Roger Greenberg, joining us today. So many different hats he wears in this city. When we come back, David Ross will be here, CEO of Ross Video. Stay with us on Ottawa Business Matters. If you haven't had the opportunity to get to know David Ross, you will be inspired. I always am. David Ross is joining us now from Ross Video, CEO of Ross Video. That's a very big title.
Yes, it is.
It's an important one for sure. For anyone that isn't involved in sort of the business world, talk to us a little bit about Ross Video and what you do.
Wow. If there's high-end video production going on, pretty much anywhere in the world, we're usually involved, either in the equipment that's being used or sometimes the services actually making video as well.
Wow.
So you have a control room here, right?
Yes, a number of them.
People pressing buttons and making it all happen behind the scenes. Most of that equipment is made by Ross Video here in Canada.
Wow. I think people are going to be surprised by that. Are people surprised when you tell them?
I was in Rogers doing an interview a few years ago,
Yeah.
and there was somebody behind the camera that after the interview went, I thought all the stuff was made in California. This is made here? So yeah, absolutely, people are surprised. And we're involved in events at the highest level as well. Like we're at the Super Bowl, we're in all the big stadiums around the world, and we're in newsrooms, of course, and entertainment shows and concerts, and and so forth. We actually were involved in some ways of doing the Taylor Swift movie that was just made as well. And John Wick 4, we were actually involved in that too. It's all sorts of fun stuff.
You're everywhere. You're everywhere. Take me back. How did it all start?
It's one of those perfect origin stories. My father quit his job and started a new business in the basement of our house in Montreal at the time in 1974. And to be able to fund it, because he had no money, he had just restored out of our garage, which drove my mom crazy, because he stripped an airplane, World War II trainer, fabric airplane, with just a stick, didn't even have a battery in it. It was top speed 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
And he just had gotten it back in the air, and somebody convinced him to sell it for $3,500. And that and his $500 in the bank was the seed capital of the company.
That is incredible. I've heard the story, but every time I hear it, it amazes me to see where you are today. Yes. So give us a sense in terms of Ross Video and how successful you are today.
Wow.
From that $4,000.
Exactly. So I joined in 1991, graduating from engineering in Waterloo, and since that point, we've been growing at an average about 15% a year, every single year on average for 33 straight years now. So we're now 1,400 people. We've bought 20 companies around the world, adding to all the technologies, and we do hardware and software and robotics and camera motion systems and instant replay systems and production switchers, and even that spider cam thing that moves around in stadiums that has the cables that goes to the four corners, and that's Ross too. It's just, it's so much fun. We do about 500 events. We have a production company in the States out of Connecticut, all Canadian owned, and we do events for ESPN and CBS Sports and NBC Sports and stuff like that as well. So it's fun.
I love that you said all Canadian owned.
Yes.
Has it ever been tempting? Has anyone ever come knocking?
Always.
And try and take you out of Canada?
Oh, of course.
Oh, we don't want that to happen. No. So why have you decided to stay in Canada?
Well, it's my home. If nothing, sometimes it's really basic. It is my home. And I live in Ottawa, and my family lives here too, and my friends live here. So, why would I want to move it someplace else? When you own the company and you're the CEO and it's a family company, you get to choose these things. It's not like somebody says you're going to move to the States. Well, no, I'm not. And the other thing is Ottawa is a great place to have a tech company, it is less expensive than in the United States because of the currency exchange. The federal government does have some generous programs as well for supporting research and development. And this town has a much better cost of living than, say, Toronto. I mean, it's fabulously less expensive for housing and things like that. And the other thing is we have a gem of an educational area, because we've got two fabulous universities, and then we've got La Cité, we've got Algonquin, and all those are feeder schools into our tech community.
Mm-hmm. Now, the community of Iroquois means something to you, and
yes, it does.
Tell us why.
So I grew up in a little town of 1,200 people on the St. Lawrence River, a little place called Iroquois that has a beautiful dam that controls the level of Lake Ontario. Wow. And it also has a runway, and my father was a pilot, or still is. In fact, he's been runway airport manager of Iroquois for 50 years.
Oh my gosh.
And he's 88
amazing.
now, and he still flies 2 airplanes.
I love it.
And so he wanted to move when after he started in the basement of our house in Montreal. He immediately moved, looked for a really great place, and he thought that was a wonderful place to start a company that was going to sell all around the world. He figured he could be anywhere. Turns out you can't actually be anywhere. We found it difficult over the years to attract some of the engineering staff to a small town. So we have the best of both worlds now. Manufacturing is there's 400 people now. We've expanded and doubled the size of that factory so many times I've lost track. It's 400 manufacturing people in Iroquois, and then a lot of the high tech and back offices here in Ottawa. So we have a sort of a country and a city lifestyle built into the company.
And the math, I've done the math as well, 50 years of Ross Video.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
That's impressive.
Tech company? How about that?
How are you celebrating?
So there's a bunch of different ways. One was we did a lot of things to honor my father, and it was wonderful. And the other thing is at our keynote we celebrated the fact that we give socks away. Some people think we're a technology company. We're actually a sock company. And it was just a promo that we started doing a few years ago. And we suddenly found that people went nuts over our socks. And they're just giveaways. And so at the trade show this year, we launched Socks 8.0, which is our 50th anniversary socks. And then we obsoleted them 1 minute later. So I'm on stage. There's 1,000 people in the audience. This is a Steve Jobs style keynote with a 64-foot LED screen behind us. The lights dim, and all of a sudden there's music that raises, and my head of marketing comes up wearing a dark suit, sunglasses. He's holding a black briefcase, and he's handcuffed to it. And he brings it on stage. We open it, click, and I open it up, and there's a sound of, oh, like this, and there's this gold light that shines in my face out of it, and the music, and I pull up some gold 50th anniversary socks, of which there's only 50 ever made. And the only way you can get a gold sock is I have to give it to you.
Oh my
So
God.
almost everybody I've given a gold sock to has put it in a box on the wall and
No
framed
kidding.
it. It's really so much fun. Yeah.
Oh, David.
So actually, I have a gold
You have
sock
yours
right
on?
here.
Oh, I
I'm
love
wearing
it.
my socks right now.
I love it. That's awesome. I love it so much. I am so inspired by you. I heard you speak, ironically, with the Ottawa Board of Trade at a mayor's breakfast.
Yep.
Interviewed you numerous times on radio. But the one interview, and I get emotional just thinking about it. There was one interview that you did during the pandemic where you talked about what you did for your team. And I know you're very humble, but I really want you to share that today because I think it's really important that people know. And you were referred to earlier by Sueling Ching as a compassionate leader. And this is why. Tell us what you did.
So it was during the pandemic, and everybody leaves the office. They work in the safety of their home. Remember, people were dying around the world, and there was no vaccines at the time, and we're still trying to figure out how you even get this, the COVID and things like that. You have to remember how strange it was back in those days. But the people in our factory came into work every day, no complaints. Masks. We did everything we could do to make it safe, but it's still just like 300 people all of a sudden converging every day. And I took a look at living wages, and at the time a living wage was about $18 an hour, and minimum wage was 14. I thought to myself, we had some people making $16 an hour, and that was competitive. But I thought, why are we paying people under a living wage? Especially I felt so grateful for what they did. And so we created a minimum wage in Ross of $20 an hour. And it was a wonderful thing. And just this year, we took a look at it again. We didn't make any fanfare out of it, but the minimum wage is now $22 an hour.
Wow. And talent. I mean, you need talent.
Yep.
Has this retained talent for you?
Yes. People come to Ross and they rarely leave. And people on the outside of Ross often say, I see people that go in, they don't leave, and so on. And I want to know what's going on in your company.
Right.
And I want to join. So we have people all over the world, actually, that when a job opens up at Ross, we have a ton of applicants and fantastic people. And good people attract good people.
Right. Good people attract good people. 1,400 jobs. That's very impressive, obviously. Is there still room for growth, do you think?
Absolutely.
Good stuff. I love it.
We're still doing it.
Good.
So we've got lots of jobs open on the website right now. I think we're hiring another 20 people into R&D. If they're not on the website, they will be soon. We're still on the track of doubling every 5 years, which is what we've been doing for the last 33 years. So 5 years from now, if we get a chance to chat again,
I hope so.
Hopefully, won't be saying there's 1,400 people, but it'll be some number over 2,000, and we'll still be doing even more exciting things around the world.
And when it's just you and your dad, what do you say to your dad about this company?
Oh, wow. You know, it's funny. My father and I actually he's very proud about it. And we're amazed because it's like 10 times bigger than our wildest dreams. But my dad, I've always taken care of my dad ever since he retired. And he says, I'm fortunate to have a son who has allowed me to live the lifestyle to which I've now become accustomed. And I say about him, I say, I have a father who has given me unrealistic expectations of what it's like to be old.
I love it.
So, because he's 2 airplanes in '88 and everything else. So it's great.
It's wonderful. And what do you say to all of your customers here in Canada that have really, as well as of course around the world, but locally here that have supported you?
Thank you. I mean, we wouldn't exist without our customers, and it's a mission for us to make sure that they're well taken care of, and I think they feel it as well. Our culture is very pro customer for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean that whole customer experience, right? You want that to be top of mind, of course. And when you think about the Ottawa Board of Trade, proud member of the Ottawa Board of Trade, how important has that been for you?
I found the Ottawa Board of Trade, it really gave me a deeper insight into the community that we live in. I'm used to being either focusing on my company, just trying to do what you need to do to make that grow, or the world where we sell and our customers all over the world. And this is a whole nother dimension, especially as Ross Video gets larger, to really understand we're part of a larger community, and to really understand the challenges that we have and all the opportunities we have as well here in Ottawa.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, David. Appreciate it very much. David Ross, of course, joining us, CEO of Ross Video. Thanks to all of our guests. Thanks for staying with us here on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam LaPrade.